And again, this is a company that pays Hudson Swafford to golf. They pay him to golf.
The Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by Underdog Fantasy. Use code Mayo at Underdog Fantasy right now and get yourself a match deposit of up to $100. You take the 100, use code Mayo, boom, instantly double your money, and then you can start firing at some PGA plays or even some LIV plays this week. We got the CJ Cup, Byron Nelson, we got LIV Singapore, and we have the recap of what happened last week. Geoff Fienberg is on the line. He would like to let you know to smash the like button for the episode and sub to Fantasy National. Get that leaderboard on your phone. It's the best leaderboard you will ever use, along with all of the other tools that Fantasy National presents. FantasyNational.com/Mayo to get that right now. I feel like we've been in a malaise, not just myself and you and everyone. I feel like the entire golf community, Geoff, has basically just taken a punt on the past 2 weeks. And I feel like it's ruined Heritage for me. Although I really enjoyed Heritage. I lost money because Scotty Scheffler ended up winning. That always sucks. But there's no need to have that big of an event the week after the Masters. Like, put this event the week after the Masters and have this field here. Like, and then I would still be somewhat excited about it because I just saw all these guys play, and then they were playing in a smaller field, in a weaker field. And of course, I really like, mind you, the week after, but it just doesn't have the same intensity that I want. I always feel like the signature event should be before the major championship, not after the major championship. Like Bay Hill was way better because it was before the Players, and then you had a larger field with a lot of the same guys. Then you added more names. It made it feel more significant. I don't like when it works the other way.
See, again, here is what lies the problem. As a member association, there's no one to tell them exactly what you just said. And it's fair. They're a member association, so they'll do what is best for the members. The scheduling, the slotting of the elevated events is strictly decided by these high-end players. They make that decision. They say, you know what? We really geared up for the Masters. We're in this like high-end leverage mode. Let's double them up. Let's double them up and then give us time off. They pick the schedule, Pat. Nobody else. If there was a league, like say any of the leagues we follow, who create the schedules and the players are therein, forced to follow them. And I get it's different. You're not a guy on the Red Wings can't say I don't want to play tomorrow. Like a golfer can just not play. But it is all due to being a member association that the logic and all of that, what is best for us or the viewership, none of that matters. None of it matters. None of it. I agree with you. I mean, you could argue that they should take the week off after the Masters, or maybe they feel like they're riding a high. Let's double dip. The point of that high was even CBS wanted to go an hour and a half live instead of having them go off early. So they wanted them out there the week after the Masters, but you're right. This should be the week after the Masters, whatever they did last week.
And we do have a signature event next week at Quail Hollow. These have flip-flopped on the schedule from the past 2 years because it was Quail Hollow, then Byron Nelson, then the PGA Championship. But starting next week, we're into a great run of like 6-7 weeks of golf. We have a signature event and a major, and then we have another signature event with the Memorial. We got Colonial coming up, which is amazing. We have the Canadian Open, and then we have the U.S. Open. And then we have another signature event right after that at the Traveler. So it's a fantastic 8 weeks of golf, really the stretch run of the season, which gets me really excited. But I think this is actually the first time ever, and I would say that I watch more of Mayakoba than Sony, but that's not, or Pebble Beach. That's not actually the case, because I was watching Pebble for the first 2 days before it got delayed, and then I was all in on LIV and watching that Yako and Sergio playoff with the scoreboard providing the lights. That was actually a ton of fun. I watched more LIV than I watched PGA this week.
I can't say the same because of the time difference. I will say one thing I love that LIV does, especially on these overseas events or any event. But when they're in a normal time zone, I'll be tracking it through the finish line. They put out these round highlight videos
that are 25 minutes long. It actually gives you a sense of what happened. I could not agree more.
Yeah, no, they're really good. And like I fell asleep, maybe they were on the 12th or 11th hole, I guess, in the final round. And I just take my fat thumb and I whip it and I see when like show me the first highlight where like the steel is on 13. And then I kind of watch it from there. And I come home and they do a nice job. Now they show a lot of like random shit and you're like, okay, whatever. But that's no different than, I guess, the PGA coverage, nothing to do with the leaderboard. They'll show you some guys make some great shots. They build up that team thing, which obviously has gasoline in Australia, and it seems like LIV in its totality gets gasoline thrown on it in Australia, which is nice for them. It'll be 0 this week in Singapore, but hey, that is what it is with LIV. But yeah, no, I can't say I actually watched a ton live, but I love those little highlight vids. I really do.
They've really seemingly taken a page out of the DP World Tour book about how to do social better. I don't know how the PGA Tour is so far behind in this, because you're absolutely right. I watch each of the recaps of the round of the stuff that I couldn't watch live, and it was actually a comprehensive recap of what happened in the round. It was like, hey, you didn't want to watch it for 4.5 hours? Here's 20 minutes where you can watch everything that goes into it, and they will tell the story of the round as it goes. You watch the PGA version of those, which they do have on YouTube, just to try to catch up, like, hey, I may have missed this. It's, you said, they still have the random shots that are completely irrelevant to the storytelling, which is fine, but they're only like 6-minute videos. So that takes up 70% of it. And they're like, oh yeah, and Rory and Lowry won. Okay, thanks.
And it's also just helpful because a lot of the events are at different times, and it's just a way of me being able to watch it. And I've even sweated bets like via that mode. Or sometimes if I'm in a real deep sweat and I fell asleep, I'll actually go to their full coverage on the YouTube and like watch it out in real time. And like the plus or minus 15, 30 seconds button is always, that's a godsend in all of this. But yeah, no, I can't say other than that I watched a ton of LIV, and you're right, they kill social. Even people that annoy me, like that Jerry Foltz guy. Him and that Sue Ann girl do they do these great little social 10-minute interviews with players, and you honestly get more out of that than anything from these guys, and they're very open about shit. But yeah, I don't know, LIV, I'm still always just totally back and forth.
Listen, I'm not going to go out of my way to really make a commitment to watching LIV Singapore this week, but this is sort of the flagship tournament of LIV, and it's fun to watch, man. Like the crowds in Australia, it's no different than, listen, I get that we're Canadian and we like the Canadian Open anyway, but I do think that when you look back the past few years of PGA Tour events, that the Canadian Open has really elevated itself because of the fan experience which they provide. It creates a fun atmosphere for both the players. That translates through the TV. Obviously, not every tournament is going to have that, and LIV is devoid of that. 90 in every other tournament besides this one, that it does create a real atmosphere. That was one of the fun things about Mayakoba at the same time. Now, it didn't really happen until the end, but when you get to isolate everyone around one hole and people are all fired up, but that was every hole in Adelaide, that I do think that the viewing makes it a lot more fun. It's like watching a hockey game. Okay, Americans probably won't understand this, but in Canada, after the NHL season is over, it's probably going on right now. I haven't watched this shit in years, but the IIHF World Hockey Championships, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I do, yes.
Yeah, so it's like the World Championships, and they just take the guys that didn't make the playoffs in the NHL, and they all go play for their country somewhere in Europe. And it is the absolute worst thing to watch. Like you're watching Canada, USA. Like, hey, this is going to be a fun game. There's 13 people in the stands. You're like, this absolutely sucks. It was one of the major drawbacks to women's hockey for a really long time, and then they started selling out lower bowls, then selling out entire arenas. Like, hey, this is way more watchable now. It seems like people are really into this. That's a part of the viewing experience. It's why all the bubble sports suck so much.
I can't really fight back on any of it, and I do give full marks to whatever. I think it's more than just Cam Smith is playing, and a bunch of college bros want to go out and watch Cam Smith golf. They clearly do. They clearly put on a great event there in Adelaide that obviously I'm sure locally has become a pop culture thing, as we've seen it on the internet. and people there have responded to it. Professional golf, in many ways, for many reasons, Australia kind of gets the shit end of the stick. So good on them.
So remember I had the idea for the Open circuit a few years ago where they should have like a mini tournament throughout the year that's all the national championships, because a lot of them just line up in a row anyway. You go Canadian Open, then the US Open in back-to-back weeks, but then you have the Scottish, the French, the Irish, and then the Open Championship all in one. They all basically appear towards the back end of everything. It would be neat if there was like a national open qualifying series, because it does seem like obviously there's clear interest in golf, especially the highest end possible golf that you're going to get in Australia, that maybe that there's a culmination of this. Like maybe you have like 4 designated legs of the National Open Championship that happen throughout the summer. And then at the end of November or something like that, you can do like the Japanese Open and the Australian Open. And then you crown a winner of this Open Championship circuit, because the PGA needs to get their tentacles into there. There's clear interest. I get that it's not super feasible to go do, and LIV can burn its money all at once and spend 8 times as much as it probably actually costs to go put on events there. But there's real interest, and I, honest to God, think why is Phoenix popular? Because there's a fucking bunch of people there, and they're having a good time. It's no different than this.
Yeah, no, I've always liked your idea with the National Open concept through the schedule. I don't know. That makes way more, and they could get a sponsor on that, clearly, like a global brand, and it makes way more sense than a lot of the bullshit scoreboards that they throw out at us.
Yeah,
throughout the season. And this would only be in a compact part of the season. It wouldn't be something they're discussing in January, February, March, but when it starts to come into play, like you mentioned, these National Open swing of the season, that's a fun thing. I totally agree. That's I don't know how many ideas we come up with, but that's an ideas man sort of thing. I give you full marks.
And you don't have to amend the PGA schedule at all during the regular part of the season. You can just play the tournaments as they normal are. You just add 2 at the end. So maybe it's like, hey, end of November, December, we're playing back-to-back weeks. You have to be on call for 2 weeks while you're taking your 4 months off, whatever it might be. Suck it up, because this is going to help. You just got paid out on whatever the hell it was. They got their distributions. Tiger got $100 million. Rory got whatever he got. That, hey, this is another way to increase. If all you care about is money, this is a way to get more global money. And you fucking hammer down on LIV at the same time. You go steal their thunder. They have one thunder. This is it. You go steal it from them.
There's a lot. Also, I know no one cares, but there's a lot of weird shit going on in Canada with this RBC sponsorship. There's still been no extension there. There's just a lot of rumblings. It's and there's not. I have a buddy who works. He's got one of those nice jobs downtown. He was mentioning to me that in a meeting with TD, which is another, I guess people in America know TD, which was another bank, that RBC floated the idea to them. Not RBC, Golf Canada has already started to float the idea to other banks, but I don't know. It's quite a big activation. There's really only 3 companies in Canada who'd be interested in something like this, so they better not lose RBC.
Yeah.
When I say interested, I just mean have the money to actually want to do it.
Well, you're not going to get we're not going to get the Export A Canadian Open, unfortunately. Bring the cigarette companies back in. We're good to go.
So we'll see. As sponsorships, obviously around the tour, continue to be a bit of a thing as these guys get their money. And honestly, I didn't deep dive the money, Pat. I didn't deep dive what this means and who gets what. But my question is simple: what does Ludwig get? And what does the next Ludwig get? Because you're not going to give these guys shit. They're going to go quickly. And then what do you have? What do you have? You have your team that's like a baseball team on the end of the 8-year contract. Paying guys who were good 8 years ago.
You got a bunch.
Who's that going to serve?
You got a bunch of 42-year-old Albert Pujols on your team?
Yeah, that's what I mean. And I'm not the smartest chicken in the coop, but when equity vests, there's not there's only so much equity to give out. So I don't understand. You think these other guys are going away?
I'm trying I mean, we know that Wells Fargo is next week. This is the final year of Wells Fargo as a title sponsor. They've already lost Honda. If RBC is truly on the table here, they sponsor 2 events and a bunch of players that could take even more money out of the ecosystem. So someone needs to come in and fill that void. I think finally we are getting very close to seeing the FanDuel, DraftKings, Underdog, whatever it might be, open.
Should be. I mean, why is every league in the sun? And we can debate whether that's healthy and the negative effects that's going to have down the road. But everyone under the sun's allowed to play, but the PGA is like hesitant.
But they're sponsored. They're sponsored by all these companies anyway. It's not like when they're on the CBS broadcast, Jim Nantz isn't like, "Oh, here's the FanDuel play for the rest of Sunday." It's like, all right, Jim, calm down.
Oh, it's painful. When Balionis, Gladhand's like, this is the golden par 3. Head over to FanDuel. Fuck, what a grift.
I mean, it would be better. Listen, I am for things like that. Like, these are actual things that I have been in meetings with the PGA Tour when I was with DraftKings to be like, look, why don't you just designate one of the par 3s at all times? Because I was trying to figure out a way to enhance broadcast a little bit and try to make it more viable, because the PGA was complaining that no one was signing up for any of these well, the PGA wasn't complaining about it. They weren't getting their kickback, and then DraftKings was mad because they weren't getting the amount of signups that they thought that they were going to get by sponsoring these things. I was like, why don't you just make the 16th hole at Phoenix? Just make it the DraftKings hole, have a live feed of that you can watch on the DraftKings app or their website, and you have constant live odds and fun props specifically for that hole that you can push to, and then everyone's a winner in this. It'll keep people on your app because they're watching it on the app with real-time fun bets that you can go make, and you can watch it all in real time. Just designate one of the holes every single week for that. Like, that makes way too much sense. I think Betfred does that for the Betfred British Masters. I think they have something similar to that. I might be wrong, but I know they sponsor that event.
Yeah, that makes total sense. But the key to that happening and working, and the only way that works, is if you literally have the live feed out. You can't do that. No one gives a shit. I'm not betting who's going to win the 16th pairing out of like 30 weekend pairings on this par 3 if I can't like watch it.
Agreed.
And I gotta watch it.
And this is where I think that LIV has fumbled the bag bigly. I don't understand why they're not in cahoots with a gambling company. It makes no sense to me.
On many infrastructure things, from the gambling to the website, they seem to not be nearly as successful as they are. And again, this is a company that pays Hudson Swafford to golf. They pay him to golf. I can't make the same joke enough, but the Hudson Swafford budget needs to be turned into the edges, like the things you mentioned, like the website, like, really feeding into this gambling shit.
You don't even really need to feed into it. Their infrastructure is weirdly set up to be the kind of the best thing to bet on. Like, I listen, they should just take the Hudson Swafford budget, give it to me, and I can come up with ideas for them. Hell, I guess they don't have to, because I'm trying to like give them out on the show anyway. But like, for every LIV event, they should just pay DraftKings or FanDuel for DFS purposes. Hey, here's a milli maker every single time. Here's the money to put up for it. Guarantee the $1 million up top. People will listen. It's not going to be a ton of people that pay attention, but it's way more than you got now.
100%. And they wouldn't just get like golf. They'd get all that whole ecosystem of dudes that love a sniff of a lot of guys that, I don't know how to put this, but I assume there's a lot of gens that play sports they don't really give a shit about when they're like deep in that DFS ecosystem, and all that matters is the data anyway. They don't even need to be fans. But, to jump in a bit of a different direction. Oh, Rory also getting on the policy board again, I think is kind of funny.
Do you think that they threw it for him to win this weekend as like kind of a, hey, thanks, here's your 25th win? It's a lot of wins, by the way. People were like laughing that Rory only has 25 wins. It's a lot of fucking wins.
Yeah, I'm not one of those people going to laugh at the guy who's won 25 times for his consistency We see a lot of guys like slump and have like loser time. Rory might not win to your liking, but he doesn't he just doesn't bottom out either. Like his lowest ranking in this is probably like what, 10th or something? 11th?
He is the most consistent. There's two players in my mind that have been the most consistent players of the past 10 to 15 years, and it's him and DJ. And that's reflected in the wins. Rory has 25, Dustin has 24. Just every year. We'd always joke about it, that you could just check off Dustin. Even if he sucks that year, like sucks being relative, but even if he's not competitive at majors in that year, or he's going through a swing change or a slump, that DJ's just going to win a tournament at some point. And Rory's the same way.
Always met his quota. And I remember when we first started doing the show, there was a stat of like guys that had won in 8 straight seasons or something. And it felt like it was Phil, DJ, and Bill Haas stayed on that list for a long time. Good for Bill. So a couple golf, like on Thursday, how to put this? They did not have the shot tracer this week, which,
do you know why they didn't? Because I do.
Well, I assume they got late. The volunteer email never went up, and they didn't have enough souls to orchestrate it. Why?
So I thought that exact same thing as well. It screwed up every leaderboard and even live leaderboards. Then you had wrong stuff coming in. But what they were doing is that they're testing out Shotlink 2.0 for Shot Tracer to get it ready for the President's Cup. And this was the only team event that they could test it out at. So they didn't want to release the data publicly, which I was like, just release the data. Like, even if it's wrong, who cares? Then I started thinking, well, what's worse? Not having it for them. Not having it and people complaining that we don't have it because people want it, or releasing it and there's like numbers that are off. Like, that's probably actually worse. So I kind of get it.
Okay, that's actually really good to hear, and I'm happy you didn't let me go on a bit of a rant. And I'm not one of these people that needed it like some others. I'm not even watching it on a Thursday. And I'm one of these people that kind of says from the tour's angle, they play every week. That's their shtick. They're like the sun coming up. They're like 60 minutes on a Sunday for these old people. They fit into everyone's routine, and they know exactly how to find them. But we don't like beg them to run these events. And if they're going to run the events, they got to run the events. They got to run the events. They can't, say this is less than that. They just have to run the events. We can decide this is less than that. You can put Andrew Catalan in the booth and the whole C team announcers, and we can know this is less than that. But, like when someone like Zurich is stepping up and the spawn, anyhow.
Zurich stepping up and in.
Yeah, so that's good that they're working on something. That is a relief to hear. And I say this, but I appreciate these people that I'm about to make fun of. I really do. Because they're needed in the ecosystem that I love. The ecosystem being this like golf hardo, golf fans, golf bettors, whatever it is. But there are people, Pat, that lose that, like that they're listening on Thursday to PGA Live, and if these announcers say something stupid, they're out for blood like it's us watching Monday Night Football or something.
I don't want to say we're to blame for this, but we're not helping that because we do exactly the same thing. If we hear it, it's just you're not watching. When someone says, like, how often do we reference Azinger talking about Corey Connors being like one of the top 5 putters in the world? They always seem to think that Corey Connors is a good putter, by the way. Every single announcer.
Yeah, no. That is true. What's their data? What is their data point? No one has sent out an all announcer memo that, like, guys, Corey Connors, not a good putter. Here's truly the stats right here. There's like 3 courses on earth he putts well in. Yeah, maybe, but just like these guys are about to call like golf for 7 hours today. They're gonna say so many dumb shit on Thursday morning. They're literally just trying to kill time. Okay, they're like guys who call minor league baseball. They don't even have the reps in yet.
I might be doing it, by the way.
Okay, good.
So which is kind of to your point, a bunch of fucking amateurs.
Yeah. And you're just trying to kill time, and you got like a lot of thoughts, I'm sure, like that are spinning through your head as you're doing it. But it's like Thursday at the Zurich. There's like 86 people watching.
Well, it's no different.
Yeah, but I appreciate all these people. You're complaining. I'm like saying like maybe chill, but at the same time, I really do appreciate you. I appreciate what you put out and all of that. But it's just like, you know, Azinger says that shit on the weekend of majors.
That's fair.
In front of millions, not 80 people.
So it's no different than, I mean, just on a very like micro and personal version of this. Someone tweeted me this weekend after we did our recap show. It was so much fun doing the show with you and Tim, by the way. I feel like I mentioned like the content malaise post Masters, that I feel like I've just been like sleepwalking through like the past 2 weeks. Not intentionally. It's just, you can only get so jazzed for things to happen, and like putting us all back together, like really reinvigorated, you know, my passion for, you know, talking into a camera and yelling about sports. But we were arguing about sitting the quarterbacks, and I was like, hey, generally speaking, that when you do sit a rookie quarterback on the bench, like in the past 20 years, it's always been behind someone really good by and large. And I was wrong about John Kitna, although that was the first year in 20 years I think the Bengals had like a non-losing season. Anyone come back?
They were like 8-8.
They were.
Right?
They were worse than I had just in my mind 24 years ago thought that they were. So I was wrong about that. Tim corrected me. But I also said something about Mahomes sitting behind Alex Smith. And like, I think I said they lost in the AFC Championship game. It's like, they lost in the wild card round. It's like, the point's the fucking same. Like that part doesn't matter. But it's exactly the same thing. Like, that's all people want. People want, and I'm no different, you're no different, people watching are no different. It's all inherent to us that if we know something in someone that you're watching in a position of prominence, be it a broadcaster, or you're watching a show about football, and they say something wrong that you know is correct, you want to be the, no, that's not right. And I'm as guilty of it as anyone. But at the same time, being on the other end of that, when listen, we're doing a 90-minute show. It's not like I have notes in front of me. Like, we're talking here, that I'm trying to remember it to the best of my ability. And I do take a lot of pride in remembering things very accurately. Doesn't mean I'm going to remember 100% of the things.
Nope. And I don't know, like, whatever. I give you a free pass because the Bengals went from first overall to 8-8, which, like, you just remember them being great after having first overall, which is not great, but that's like they were clearly a decent team. But yeah, that's a fair point. I was getting mad at draft when everyone jerks off Daniel Jeremiah as this Chargers. He does the Chargers color commentating for radio. And sometimes games are going annoying. I like to just sit outside and listen on the radio because the fucking Charles Davis or someone's pissing me off on TV. So there, I'm just feeding right into it. And everyone's sucking this guy off for how he knows how well the Chargers draft. Guy hasn't gotten a Chargers first round pick right in 7 years. And add JC Latham to his pile. I like DJ though. I do. But like, don't tell me he's like some messiah knowing who the Chargers are going to draft. Never drafted, never gotten it right. And that could be on purpose. That could be on purpose. Maybe he does actually know, but he works for the team. He's like, I'm not putting that out there. So yeah, other than that, I don't know. Zurich, weird, fun. I don't really care though.
Zurich
like,
sucks. That's the whole thing. I was going to say the Zurich sucks. The Zurich doesn't suck. I just don't find it interesting.
Yeah, it's not that interesting. I mean, maybe it would be more fun with like a lot more like high-end teams.
I don't know.
That would be really cool, but I don't know. The leaderboard just goes to shit right away. And I'm not even talking about the tracking. It's just like the guys who are the deepest on the course and are trying to quantify it. I kind of shut it out, but that Trainer Ramey alt shot score is insane. Insane.
I was going to be very mad at myself because I bet those two losers last year and they ended up like blowing it down the stretch for I forget what they ended up doing on Sunday. Like they were kind of in it and then they weren't in it. And then I saw them like making this run on Sunday. I was like, oh my God, they're going to win. And I didn't bet them. The same as like I kept seeing Kelly Craft and Kevin Tway as a team I always bet on in this stupid tournament that never win. And they started making a run. I was like, oh my God, is this going to happen? Because I didn't bet on them. Fortunately, Rory and Lowry won, who I also didn't bet on. They ended up winning. I think that's good for the event in a weird way. Like, yeah. And I felt so bad because I tuned into the end of it, and it was Blair and Morpheus. That has fuck was his name? Fishburne.
Lawrence
Fishburne and Zach Blair were the team. Dude just chewing his gum and looked like a serial killer. But they missed to the right down in that like little gully on 17 on the par 3. And he tried, like, it was not an easy shot, but you just saw the nerves hit him all at once. And it hit him on the chip. It hit Zach Blair on the putt that he had to like leg up close to it, and then left like I think it was like 4 or 5 feet on the comebacker and just didn't hit the hole for Fishburne. Just like you see it with these, and when Rory was faced with an immensely difficult chip, trying to time that perfectly, like even the announcers were arguing about like what he should do. Should he fly it to the hole? Should he play a bump and run? And Rory just puts it 2 feet. I expected Lowry to miss the putt as someone who, it's probably because I didn't bet on him like I normally do. That if it was me with money on Shane Lowry, he would have missed the 2-foot putt and there would have been no playoff. And then you get to the playoff and fucking Trainer and Ramey can't get out of their own way. It's like they turned into me all of a sudden. It's like they got replaced skill-wise by me and you going out in the playoff to play Rory and Lowry, because you see it all the time. We haven't seen it as often because towards the beginning of the season, a lot of these guys that were winning from the clouds, they were winning by a bunch or taking on a bunch of other guys who haven't actually won. And I keep wanting to say Bridgman, but it's not Bridgman, it's Fishburne. Fishburne played really well on Sunday, from what I could see at least. Like he played much better than Zach Blair did. But the moment that they took the lead, it all hit him. Like it's a lot easier when you have to fire at pins to make a comeback, because if you don't get to this number, you're not going to win. You can just kind of, it's YOLO season. Like there's no downside to missing at that point. Then you can play a little bit freer. Once you tighten up, it all goes to shit. And that's what we saw from all of these teams around Rory and Lowry. Even Bremen, I mean, the Hubbard chip that got caught up in the rough was a shitty break, but we even saw it with him. Like Brem put it over the green from 290 out. He was fucking amped.
Yeah, that was sick. That was a bit of a bad break. Yeah, Lowry did miss like a 2-footer early in the day. He's capable of missing anything. I don't even know if this win takes Lowry off of my untrustables.
It should,
because like how he putted through that day was insanely horrible as well, in my opinion. And it's still Sunday, Shane Lowry, whatever. But yeah, you said it. They all kind of melted. I do agree. Totally good for the event. Even I caught myself watching it because alt shot is just fun. Like it is fun. And they did the thing with the Zurich, like guy, the president, he has to glad hand his shitty event, but he's like, it's great. Like he lists off like the past champions of the event, and you're like, hey, you can't really argue. Like they've had some really great champions, which I think helps the event every time. Again, my final stance is I'm not going to glad hand your other shit, even when you take away match play. But you said this should be match play, and I totally agree with that. But I don't know. Now my head's spinning. I didn't give a shit. In the end, I didn't really care. I didn't really have runners. I was wishing Hadwin and Taylor could have fought harder. Could have had a fun President's Cup narrative there. And to the Malays, Pat, I think you're bang on because I did the math. I think we're right in the middle. I think we are like at 18 of like 36. On the season or 9, like we are right in the, it's getting blurry a bit, so it'll be great to get to some nice events again and into another major at Valhalla.
And I think that this is a nice ease back into it, because there's Jordan Spieth and a bunch of nobodies playing this week at a tournament, and then we get the kickoff of that 8-week run. So it's nice to just kind of circle back, get our sea legs underneath of us again for a lot of content coming up and just a lot of interest coming up. Like, I never do Zurich shows because I usually take a vacation that week and I'm away. Like, terrible numbers for the Zurich and people's interest in tuning into shows about it.
Yeah, I guess football season, you just took it earlier this year. As soon as football ended, I feel like you got away. Maybe next year you'll do more Zurich. I don't know. Do whatever you want. But I'm not shocked that Zurich numbers are just horrific in terms of week-to-week golf content.
Let's briefly touch on LIV Adelaide, like what actually happened there. Brendan Steele ends up winning, and I bet on 3 guys at LIV. 1 came in second and 1 came in third. So that's always a lot of fun. But the guy who came in third, at least I had the 28-1 top 5 each way. He got the full each way. Thanks, Charles. Chucky Chompers coming through, Cam's guy, for us down there. But it was cool. It was weird. As much as I don't like the team aspect of it, they got, for the first ever LIV playoff, like team playoff, after the individual was decided, Steele won, but the High Flyers were not a part of the overall playoff. It was the South African team and the Australian team. You couldn't have asked for two better teams to like kind of highlight being in a playoff, because those are the only two teams that feel like real teams to me. And El
The
Torquay,
Rippers
I
and
suppose.
the Rippers and the Stingers, Pat. Come on.
Sorry.
Know it.
Sorry.
Yeah, I wish more of LIV was exactly that. Like matchups with the team versus like their finals. I feel like if their finals was more of that, then I could buy into what they do. I agree. Like I was even wondering when they go to Valderrama, like Ram and Sergio aren't even on the same team. That's not to say golf fans can't like different players on different teams. I just mean like they have to share that sort of Spain swag, and they do it. They execute it. It seems very nicely when it comes to the Rippers and the Stingers. It walks a line between cool and cringe, but a lot of stuff does, and even on the PGA Tour that happens. So I guess that's my. There's like moments where I'm like, this is cool, and there's moments where I'm like, this is so fucking cringe. But that's like a lot of things.
Well, I thought it was
It's a hard line to walk.
I thought it was interesting how they actually had to do the playoff. They had to nominate two players from their team. I don't know if the captain had to be one of the people playing in the playoffs, because I know if the High Flyers got to a playoff, Phil would not be one of the 2 of 4 people chosen based on the way that he is playing at the moment. He wasn't like awful on Sunday, but I don't know. I mean, Burmeister had a really good week, and Burmeister obviously just won it to Rao. He's been the much better player than Charles. But Charles coming in with the best round of the day, you don't throw that guy in the playoff with you?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't really know that, and I haven't had a chance to watch the Stingers presser yet. Maybe they addressed it. I don't know if I'm even being serious there, but you're right. Hot round of the day, like get him out there. He's the one that got you into the team pole position with that round.
And it was
Charles playing sneaky, like decent.
Well, when I wrote him up in the newsletter this week, you can go check out the newsletter, completely free, down in the description. Mayo Media on Substack. But he either finishes really, really well or horrible. Like there's no T15s coming in for Charles lately. It's either top 5s, top 10s, or dead last in the field. So if there's a guy to take a shot on at like 140 to 1, he's kind of the guy right now.
I've made one bet already at LIV this week.
Are you rolling joints over there? What are you doing?
No, I'm not rolling joints. I'm struggling here. I'm putting on my glasses, which are broken. I was just cleaning them. So look.
There you go.
I bet Patrick Reed 35 to 1. That's not a repeat of what I said last week, despite it being exactly what I said last week.
Yeah, well, we'll get to
Patrick Reed 35 to 1.
Yeah, we'll get to LIV. I bet Patrick Reed at 35 last week too, and he was 2 off the lead going into the final round. He was one guy they did not show a shot of in the round 4 recap. He must have shot like 80 or something, like Anthony Kim did.
Yeah, I didn't see them. And when they die, I don't really go look for them.
Me neither. The Pat Mayo Experience is sponsored by BetterHelp. Sometimes you need to get something off your chest. Lord knows I do. And one of the biggest things that can cause is big stressors in our life. Whether they're big or they're small, bottling it all up can really start to affect us very negatively. And therapy is a safe space to get things off your chest and figure out how to work through whatever's weighing you down. And it's helpful for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries and really start to affect your life in a positive way. And it might even be some stuff that you're not even really thinking about that you can unlock and really start to improve your life for the better. So if you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge if you're not liking it. So, get it off your chest with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/PatMayo today and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/PatMayo. DraftKings.com/Pat Mayo. All right, let's get to the CJ Cup Byron Nelson. So the CJ Cup has bounced around as a sponsor. Obviously, they sponsor a lot of the Korean golfers on the PGA Tour. You always see the CJ Cup hat. This was I think it was Jeju Island is where they used to have the original CJ Cup. I remember Brooks won over there. Someone else, I can't remember exactly who it was at this point. It was always during the swing when they went on that like Kuala Lumpur, South Korea, Japanese run as a part of the swing season. That doesn't really happen anymore. They still go to Japan, but Kuala Lumpur is out of it, and so is Korea right now. And then they shifted. They did one at Shadow Creek, I think, was the CJ Cup. And I think Rory won. They also did one, I think it was in South Carolina at one point. Maybe that's the one that Rory won. It's been bouncing around, but it seems like they've stuck on here, and this is a way to keep Byron Nelson as a part of like in the title of the name in Texas at the Bunny Ranch or TPC Craig Ranch, as they prefer it be called. But AT&T is out. I think that's meaningful.
Shit, I didn't even know that. Yeah, I guess another one bites the dust. AT&T leaving golf from a corporate sense. Maybe they're trading it and getting somewhere else, but I don't know. That's just another name on the pile. Horrible sign. Horrible sign. Think Arthur Blank, John Henry, they're going to realize what an epic miscalculation they made. Who the fuck would want to invest in these guys?
Well,
think they're worth 10. Either Patrick Cantley thinks he's worth 30 times more than he's worth, and you've got to placate that. Who would want to invest in something like that?
AT&T, I think, is a nice lot, like it has nice symmetry with RBC for the PGA Tour as well, because RBC sponsors both the Heritage and the Canadian Open. AT&T had this and has Pebble Beach, so they were sponsoring two tournaments as it goes through. I bet you that's what we're looking at for RBC. They're probably going to stick with one of the two that they have and give up the other one. And I would guess, even though it's an elevated event, that the Canadian Open one probably costs more for them, and there's probably more competition within Canada to be that title sponsor.
I kind of spoke about earlier. I don't know that competition truly exists because there's so few actual people who can step up, who can not even want to, who have the resources to make that contribution. And in some of these instances, these sponsorship dollars are already allocated to other things, like say the Maple Leafs or like it's a big thing, and there's not many people who can actually afford to play into the pool. You would hope that the tour would glad hand these people who have been so loyal, RBC, with not just their sponsors of events, but players. I don't know. Maybe RBC's looking for a real sweetheart deal for the two bang. Because the PGA should be getting on its knees for anyone that's even got the possibility of handing two of these things. Yeah, but that's again a different conversation. I didn't know about this AT&T thing, and sometimes I'm on the ball with this stuff. Clearly missed this one. I'd be shocked though if they did leave Pebble Beach.
Me too.
Would be shocked because we even saw last year it was elevated. But there's just such a high leverage
This year it was elevated.
Yeah. There's just such a high leverage, like elevated symbolism to that event. So, yeah. I don't know. You want to get into this tournament, Pat? Because I'll be honest. This wheel, there's no choice but to spin this thing so fucking hard. This wheel of losers. I feel like I am a fisherman alone in a little like dingy pontoon boat being surrounded by sharks, and sharks being the losers on this betting board.
So you're
I don't know. They're coming to eat me.
The favorite at the tournament is Jordan Spieth. He's 16-1. He's like at DraftKings, he's 10-1, which is where I thought that he would open. But Bet365 opened a 16 on him. That probably gets crushed down. But the pricing for this tournament reminds me a lot of like a Corrales or a Puerto Rico Open, where there's no definitive favorite. That Spieth is just kind of the favorite by default because he's Jordan Spieth. Not that he's playing well at the moment. Dave, the defending champ, is 20-1. Siwoo is 22. So is Zalatoris, Adam Scott, Alex Noren, and Sung Jae are all 25. Ben An is 30. Min Woo is 33, as is Steven Yeager. And then you drop instantly down to Tom Kim, Keith Mitchell, Tom Hoagie, all at 40-1. Then you got Thomas Dietrich by himself at 45. Then Patrick Rogers at 50, coming off a really nice week at the Heritage 2 weeks ago, where he was in the running till the very end. I don't know if I want to bet any of these guys. Like, is this a week just to punt the top of the board?
You want to like just turn the camera off and say bye?
No, I mean, like, should we start? Like, I have guys that I like in this field, but they kind of starts at like 75-1. Like, I could see Spieth winning. I mean, I think Si Woo is actually my favorite of all of these guys at 22-1. He was second here last year. He's playing better golf right now than he really has been consistently at any point in his career. He just doesn't have a win recently. That, I don't know, if he makes some putts this week for the first time this season, that he'll probably win.
I don't trust him worse. I don't trust Spieth for anything. Si Woo, I guess, yeah. I mean, the top Korean market will probably be one of the more competitive prop markets going this week. A lot of action in there, and I think a lot of them live in this area, which is nice. That if CJ Cup wants to like actually get the foothold, they pick the place where most of their guys live. Like, is he that bad? Like, Willie's number the same as Noren? Like, how do you not? Like, how do you even consider something like that?
I would throw this out. I would throw this out to that point, because I looked at this long and hard, and I think I discussed this on the research show as well. Do you really want Will Zalatoris at a tournament where -25 might have to be the winning number?
No. That would be like the betting point. No, I don't. This just doesn't seem like the place. It feels like it neutralizes him. Him missing that 6-footer for birdie. But then he goes to the hardest hole on the courts at normal events, and then he makes these great birdie. Like, no, we don't have that here. I would go closer to the end of your list, though, Pat, of the higher end players. It would be like maybe my preeminent loser, the guy who might get my gold medal of I trust you less than anyone.
Yeah, you want to trust Ben An to make those putts? Come on.
No, that would be a guy I'm thinking of. But going down a bit more, I don't think I'm going to be able to resist Minwoo Lee this week. The guy wins at low numbers. Like, his pro wins are birdie parties. He can send it out there like a missile. The iron, give or take, and we hope the putter is on. It can be on, just not the nut low irons. He'll be hitting it, so he'll be bombing it so deep. Maybe it's more I should be looking at the wedges. But Minwoo of this class of names is my favorite.
I don't necessarily disagree with you on that front, because this is the tournament when it first debuted, because it played as a KFT event. Taylor Montgomery actually won a Corn Ferry start here in 2019, if you were wondering. Nick Hardy inside the top 10, Chandler Phillips inside the top 10 that season as well. Min Woo played here on KFT in 2018 and came inside the top 20. He missed the cut at this event a year ago. But when it debuted, it's basically been the course with the most eagles. And when I looked on Fantasy National, I saw like the bar graph distribution. Most courses tend to tell you exactly the same thing, that if you're going to finish inside the top 10 or the top 5, your irons are way up here and your putting is way up here, and your driving's like here and your chipping is right here, because that just logically makes a lot of sense. You're going to hit your irons really well and actually make the putts to go along with it. That's how you win golf tournaments. Easy stuff. Hard to predict in that way or project out, but that when you kind of retroactively go back and look at it, that is what happened. This course is not like that. Driving, irons, and putting are all on equal foothold here. And it's not like chipping is that far behind. It's a pretty flat distribution, probably the most flat I've seen at any course. So if we're going to take that into account, and eagles mean the most, I mean, if you set someone up on a par 5 where you had to make eagle, Minwoo would probably have to be in the top 5 of players that you would trust to make eagle on that hole. Dude makes a ton of eagles.
I've never thought about my most likely to make an eagle ranking. But yeah, he sends it. His winning scores are like, he's never won anything, I think, under 19 under. in his handful of wins worldwide. Also, Australia, very kind. Australians love Texas. So he would just be another Texas winner. Even our boy Bowditch knocked off a win. It wasn't this one. It was Crown Plaza.
No,
whenever that was.
Yeah, which is this tournament. It just wasn't at this course. It was the Byron Nelson back in the day. We also got the Todd Father beating Mike Weir at the Byron Nelson at one of those weirdo courses that they used to play. Well, maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was Valero where Bowditch won, now that I think about it.
No, I think it was Crown Plaza because I was during my friend's wedding and I was staring at my phone a lot.
Yeah, but Valero is a new sponsor, like new-ish sponsor. I think it may have been the Crown Plaza before that.
Okay, yeah, then that is fair. Minwoo, I was so bullish on him coming into the season. Obviously, it's been more bust than boom, but I don't know. I don't care for any of these guys. I like to play some level of a good player. That's the best player I can seem to think that I want to trust. I want to trust Adam Scott too, but I don't. It's, he goes into, he's the same as some of these other guys in the 20s that we've discussed. I just might have to pass and be happy for them when they win.
Adam Scott has really been, it's not that he's having a good year at all, because he's not. Although he had a good, because I looked at Phoenix, because I was thinking KH Lee has won this twice. Where else does KH Lee play well? And then you kind of start checking off. And this is a Weisakoff design. He also designed Scottsdale. That there has been some decent crossover between Phoenix and this place, but you don't get a lot. Because it's not the week before the major, this field is significantly weaker than it's been the past 2 years. Like Scheffler would play this last year. And Zalatoris. And Neiman, when he was on tour, would play in this event. Like Hideki played here last year. So we got a lot of people trying to get themselves into form coming into the second major of the year, and we're just not seeing that this time around. So you might have to scroll down a little bit more. But Hoagie and Mitchell strike me as two guys that have just been close to winning all season long, and that's what we got at this tournament last year. That day was really close the entire year. It just didn't happen for him, and then it happened at the Byron Nelson. Maybe that just, you play the narrative from that sense. Hoagie has been getting a little bit worse. Mitchell's been getting a little bit worse. They're not coming in with the top end form that they had when we thought that they had a chance to actually win, but they've just been playing well for 4 straight months now. Maybe this is the type of field where they can go knock one off.
Yeah, I feel like just blindly, if I had to trust one,
I don't trust any of them, but their odds are deeper than the other. Like, if they're going to tell me, hey, you can bet Ben Ann at 30 or Keith Mitchell and Tom Hoagie at 40 or 45, I'll take the 40 and 45. I'll take the extra 15 points.
Yeah, I'm more so a bet golfers, not numbers sort of guy, but I totally agree with that. Like, because they are the exact same. And truth be told, on my trust rankings, I would actually probably trust Mitchell and Hoagie more than Ben Ann. I don't know if anyone, maybe leave it in the comments. I doubt Pat will remember. What was the Ben Ann number at Sony? Probably the exact same, maybe like 33, 35.
Yeah, somewhere between 30 and 40, I would guess.
Yeah, okay. I just want to know that for my frame of reference. I did bet Ben Ann there. I've said many times this year I will not do it again. So we shall see. I like Mitchell. I've seen a 45 on Mitchell with an enhanced. That one probably be my favorite, but Hoagie's been peppering it as well. I agree with your identifying that if this has been a moment where guys are getting over the hump who have had strong seasons, those would probably have to be the favorites. Have to be.
Yeah. And so I might just end up there. Then outside of that, like, I really got nothing. Here are the guys who lead in Eagles gained over the past 50 rounds in this field. Kevin Tway is the best, coming off a decent performance with Smelly Kelly at the Zurich and was top 5 in Puerto Rico, or Corrales, where the fuck that one was 2 weeks ago. So he's playing better golf for the first time in years. He's number 1 in Eagles gained. Min Woo is number 2. Custy Pete is number 3. Toasty is number 4, someone I will be betting this week. Alex Noren, number 5. That surprises me. Mac Hughes, number 6.
55-1 Mac Hughes.
Seems a bit low. And he'd been playing,
I guess
he'd been playing really good golf until the Heritage.
Yeah, I wouldn't put him too far from the other guys. I don't think 55 is that low, but I totally agree. It's fair to say the guys at like 75 and 80 have exact same chances of winning. It's hard for me to fight that. I'm embarrassed to say I'm just drawing a blank. Who's Custy Pete?
Peter Quest.
Oh, I've seen him very popular this morning.
People really like his story, and he's been good. Don't get me wrong. But
He's a masher, right?
yeah.
And looking at the grid over my friends at OC, I'm seeing as high as 100, as low as 55.
Yeah, no chance
So,
of 55. I'd rather, like, why would you bet Custy Pete instead of Toasty?
do you bet Custy Pete instead of Toasty? That's yeah, it seems like there's hundreds out on Toasty as well.
110, I'm seeing right now. Another name who just kept popping up for me, which I found really strange, I believe he played last week at the ISPA Handa in Japan, is Semikawa. Semikawa makes a ton of eagles. He's really good off the tee. Doesn't really do much of anything else well, but I was just surprised to see him in this tournament based on that. By the way, where is he? Where is KH Lee? What are his odds? 50 to 1? 60? I need higher. I need higher than 60.
I'm sorry, 60 is actually the highest because I'm seeing it as low as like mid 40s.
Yeah.
So 60 is the biggest it gets. There's a couple names here I want to just run through. Well, specifically, I want to ask you about Luke List because, you know, something like the Zurich is totally perception based, especially without the stats. And between like what I was seeing and sometimes what announcers were saying, both on TV and radio, it seemed like List was playing great, and Norlander, who no fault of him, you know, I've heard this was his like third or fourth start of the whole year, was playing seemed like he was playing horribly. So I don't know, List at 75, just launch it out here in Texas. You can trust him in the wind. I don't know. That one caught me as not. It's hard to know. I guess it's hard to gain like how well guys truly played last week, but I got the sense Luke really carried his fucking team.
I could see that. And as I've made mention of before, you can kind of take away whatever you want from the Zurich. You can say, well, I think he's in good form because his team had a good week. Or you can say they didn't have a good week. Who fucking cares? It's the team tournament. You can you can take away whatever you want from this.
Yeah, you say they had a bad week, but it wasn't his fault.
Yeah, sure. I was looking in that same range that, I mean, I've written it, I've been saying it for a while now, that I think that when Ryan Fox gets hot, he's really good. And when he's not hot, he's exceptionally bad. And he started to be a little bit better. He was very good at the Masters until he got wiped out on the Saturday. And then I think him and Higo ended up coming, T5 last week? Something like that. They had a really nice alt shot Sunday as well. That I think if we're thinking about quality of player, and that's what I'm doing here, like, do I really want to spend the money on Noren? Like, I think Noren's good. Noren probably deserves to be like one of the quote-unquote favorites in this tournament. He's one of the better players. But if you can tell me I can bet Alex Noren at 25 to 1, or I can take List and Ryan Fox and Jake Knapp anywhere between 75 and 100, I'd rather have those three guys for less money than I would have to bet on Alex Noren.
I love that you mentioned Ryan Fox. I love that you're eyeing that. I think we got to do it. I mean, I agree with everything you said. I know he's New Zealand, but he can fit in onto that. Well, Minwoo's also. Is Minwoo New Zealand?
Minwoo's Australia. Ryan Fox is a Kiwi.
Anyhow, yeah. Well, he gets lumped in with the Aussies this week in terms of how well they seem to naturally feel on these Texas golf courses. And you said it. He was great at if he's a form guy, I want him in this field because I think the course suits him. And if the form is suiting him and he runs his hot form, then flirting, I'm seeing it as high as 90. That's something I think I can get behind.
And I have David Blyleski on the show tomorrow, joining us live from New Zealand. So it'd be a very nice narrative fit for us this week.
I don't know if that was a coincidence, but it is good that you got someone from down there for the event that Australians seem to have the most success at. I mean, Davis Thompson could be on my wheel of losers.
Yeah, he's slowly becoming one of the captains of the wheel of losers. He has one of the biggest heads up there. Here comes Davis Thompson. Big fucking head. Who else? Lonto's ball striking has been really good recently. Like, just under the radar good. I bet him at Corrales he had a terrible day one, and the putter has been atrocious. But putting is actually something he used to do really well. But his driving and irons are back from like the form that we saw, not quite when he was like a top 30 player in the world like 3 years ago, but still very good. So he's like someone that's the thing. I'd rather just take shots on, like, Knapp hasn't been good, but I mean, what was it, 2 months ago? People were like, could he win the US Open? He's not that guy, but I don't think he's 90-1 in this field either.
Yeah. I might have my own losers, but he's actually a loser that's won, so that's not fair. I'm just trying to find the numbers, though.
Kevin Yu has been the best rated player in all of my numbers of anyone.
Yeah, as long as he's not needed around the greens and you hope for a little putt luck, then you're fine.
Yeah, it's the putt luck that's a problem for him. He just doesn't putt.
Okay, here he is. Numbers. Adam Schenk.
Okay. Interesting name to throw out. Sell me on Adam Schenk.
He's been sneaky, playing quietly just fine. 19th Players, 33rd Valspar, 5th Valero, 12th at the Masters. Followed that up with, I think, being kind of chalky. Well, like from the scrub standpoint at RBC. Don't even know how to quantify that. His around the green and his putter, like, totally lost it.
Yeah, he lost
the RBC.
He lost over 7 strokes in his short game between chipping and putting at Heritage, and that's against a signature field. Gained 3 off the tee and gained against that field and approach. The part that I was going to add on to you: 17th in Phoenix this year. 23rd in Phoenix the year before, and to look back on it, he's never really had success at this course, but I do like that Phoenix narrative coming through. The ball striking is in a good place, and we do know that if Schenk ever wins, he's going to end up gaining like 12 strokes putting in a week.
Yeah, and he did. I mean, he gained 6 strokes putting in Texas in the last month.
Different greens.
With, true. But, yeah, I don't know. In the middle of the pack, would I want something more than 55-1? Like, blindly, I would have said yes. But as you sort of stare at the rest of the pricing, like, I'd take him over Mac Hughes. I'd take him over Hostler. I trust him over some other guys. And I trust him as much as a Ben On, hypothetically, who's obviously a lovely fit here, the way he'll mash it. But, yeah, so Adam Schenk in that middle zone, I do wish it was higher. Now I lost him on my screen. 55-1. That's like the highest number.
Yeah.
So
they're seeing what we're seeing. How do you feel about Seamus Power?
Another one would maybe put him on a list of guys I do not mind.
Gained on approach in 5 straight tournaments. The off the tee has been really bad, but he has top 20s here every year that they've played this tournament.
I don't mind that. He actually might be on my betting card.
And he's
70-1.
70-1. Yeah.
Especially a betting card. Like, Minwoo is my favorite. I probably won't have the discipline to move off it because when I say, but there's not really much between that and 50 that I'm going to play. So I could bet whoever I want, and I could probably just bring a couple bodies into the fold. I'm going to bring up a loser, but I just want to have a number to back it up for a little bit.
Is it Patrick Fishburne?
No. I can't find it. I can't find him on the screen.
Help me. You tell me the guy, and then I'll help you try to sell it.
You want me to tell you who it is?
Yeah.
I'm embarrassed. I wanted to know if I could sell it first. But it is Pendrith at 100.
He played well in Corrales, didn't he?
I'm loaded. I found him finally.
Yeah, he was 11th at Corrales.
Shit,
it's weird. He's what I talked about Charles earlier in the show. Kind of, it doesn't quite like apples to apples apply to Pendrith, but just if you look at his results, it's really weird.
Shit.
Holy
shit, you're right.
He's either top 10 or dead last in the field.
I didn't know that was his MO. As someone who like tries to enjoy him, I guess that makes perfect sense because it's either he miscut or he's like competing, and I feel like, why didn't you bet him? And you didn't bet him because all he does is miscuts. But okay, yeah,
So-
11th at Corrales. I don't know. Like, he doesn't necessarily ride form either, though, because he could ride 8th places into miscuts and then come back the next week and finish 10th.
So to illustrate what we're talking about here, just to look at his page on Fantasy National, you just run back what he's been doing. So to start at Corrales before, so it's 11th, miscut, 36th, miscut, 9th. That was at Torrey Pines. Missed the cut at the American Express, but was 10th place at the Sony Open. To go back to the swing, miscut, 8th, 15th, 3rd, miscut, 6th, 14th. So maybe he's just a guy that you bet in, like, what are his top 20 odds? The problem with Pendrith is that people think that he's really good. So I feel like a lot of the value is always beat out on him. So like, what are his numbers this week? It's what, like 100 to 1? Yeah. Like, he should be higher than that.
I mean, maybe. But like Chesson Hadley's 100 to 1. He
Sure.
should be double that.
That's fair. That is a completely fair point. Anyone from above 100 to 1 that you do like? Chandler Phillips actually did kind of stick out to me. He's been good. And Ryan Brem. Ride some Ford with Ryan Brem at 400 to 1. Bombers track where you need to make some putts. He's done that before.
Yeah, he won. What did he win? Puerto Rico. He won one of those island events. I think.
Yeah, he won Puerto Rico, but dude just bombs it. So
Bombs it.
So if you can make some eagles, which you can, then he might be the guy for you.
It's actually a shame that Hubbard didn't putt like Hubbard, because Brem was bombing it. We're still in this, like, he's clearly overrated because he has name value. Is Bobby Mack started to show any life?
I
I
mean,
know him and Detry like loitered, but who knows what that was.
it's funny that he's behind Matty Schmidt in terms of the odds now, just to think that he was on the Ryder Cup team 6 months ago. I don't know. I don't know what to do with any of these guys. So I'll probably end up taking a pass. Maybe I can be sold later on in the week. But again, we don't need to commit to guys this early. Let's talk about LIV very briefly. LIV Singapore, where Gucci Man ended up racking up his second of back-to-back wins a year ago. He beat Sergio in the playoff. I actually went back and watched last year's 25-minute recap of the final round. Phil was pretty good too. The High Flyers, it was their second ever podium finish, I think. I think they only have 2 overall. I was just thinking about betting Cam Smith again, 12 to 1. I didn't bet him last week. I bet Reed instead. Just feels like Cam Smith or Louis is going to win very soon on LIV, just with the way that they've been playing.
What Cam is 12 again?
I think you can get him up to, no, that's the Volvo China Open on the DP World Tour. I had some, Sky and Tom, I didn't bet anyone. The highest I bet last week was 90 to 1. I bet 3 guys in Japan. Papa Shugo, Yuta Segura, and some other dude. And they all finished inside the top 10. Missed the each way on the 225 guy by a place. That sucks. He came T6. But let's see. Outright markets, 12 to 1 for Cam Smith. Seems like a pretty good number. If that's the only bet I'm probably going to make. Might bet some loser towards the end of the pack. They've crunched a lot of the LIV odds here recently.
Do you know anything about the course?
Yeah. I mean, they used to play it on the DP World Tour. Sergio has a win here. Sergio was the other name that I was thinking about betting. But he's fucking 20 to 1.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. It sort of feels like the exact same names I was swimming around last week. Cam Smith would be my favorite of these sort of high ends. Louis, Sergio, Answer, Reed. Oh, it just seems in Casey. It's the exact same group of players that I made my card from last week, which ended up being Louis, Reed, and Casey. We'll see. Maybe Cam Smith and Reed, or maybe I just jam the middle again like I did last week. I don't have a clue. From
way back in the pack, Scott Vincent was someone who kind of showed up more than I would have liked to imagine. And I just like his look. He has the long hair. He looks like a hippie or some sort of mountain man, someone who lives in the wilderness. And he just has a ton of Asian Tour experience that maybe he's more familiar with this style of course than a lot of other people are, but you probably just end up taking the talent. So I'm thinking Cam Smith or Sergio is where I'm leaning. Probably Cam Smith for sure at 12 to 1. Quick picks.
I don't like So I was just gonna shout out Harold Varner for
Why?
being like for being the live player this year who, has some like a name like that second, third mid tier that just totally said, fuck it. I'm not here. I'm not here to learn how to golf. I'm not here for that. I want no part of that. So shout out to Harold.
Okay. Quick picks for the CJ Cup, Byron Nelson, and LIV Singapore. So for LIV Singapore, I'm betting Cam Smith. We'll figure out what we're doing down the line there. Probably Sergio and Scott Vincent would be my guesses. I'll play Scott Vincent with like a top 10 as well because his odds are ginormous. They're like 175 to 1 right now. For PGA, I don't actually have any bets in. Kevin, you will be a bet for sure. That bet is going in. I think I'm going to get it 75 to 1 with the placings. I might be able to get at 90 without the placings. And maybe I don't do any placings this week. I just bet on some of these longer bombs and, instead of making my bet double, I'll just bet a few more people down the line because there's a lot of guys from this back end that I like. You kind of sold me on Shank. I'll probably be in on that. I think we talked ourselves into Ryan Fox. So you, Fox, Shank, Phillips, Brem, Knapp, Power, Mac Hughes, Toasty. I'm swimming around those guys, sort of in the middle. But it all depends on what I do at the top. I might join you on Minwoo, but I do have a soft spot for Siwoo here, even at the crazy odds.
Spinning that wheel. Bankrupt. Yay. Okay. Probably going to be on Minwoo Lee. In front of 50, it would be Mitchell and Hoagie, but I don't want to pay it. I've talked myself into Shank. You have talked me into Ryan Fox, and I don't mind that Seamus Power, Luke List sort of conversation that we had. So those would be the names that I am looking at, and I maybe Big Head Davis Thompson as well. As for Liv, in the end, I don't know that I'll pay up for Cam. I'm just a loser for these like shot maker middle tiers, so that does bring in Louis, Sergio, Patrick Reed, Paul Casey, Ansar, the same like that type player. That's where I'm going to pick 3 from.
One and done picks for the CJ Cup, Byron Nelson. Once again, fantasynational.com/Mayo to get yourself 20% off to follow along on the leaderboard. And if you haven't tried out Underdog Fantasy yet, $100 match deposit for first-time depositors, and they'll give you some free squares to go along with that too. So you can even enhance that a little bit. It's plus EV move. Help support the Pat Mayo experience with code Mayo at Underdog Fantasy right now. All the deets down in the description. Cuss is taking Jason Day. I'm taking Siwoo. Who are you taking?
Siwoo's a great pick. I burned him at the Heritage. Definitely the great pick. You know what? There's like not more than 3 golfers in this field playing better golf than Adam Schenk. Right now, I'm going to pick Adam Schenk.
I like it. He's going to win here or the John Deere. Let's have it. Maybe Colonial.
Please.
I got Hoagie for Colonial. If Hoagie wins this week and I don't bet him, I'm just going to be furious with myself. Furious, Jeff.
40 to 1. It's not horrible.
No, but like I got to figure out what I want to do with these. Like, do I want to bet like the 6 guys right around 100 to 1 and Siwoo, or do I do like Mitchell and Hoagie and then like 3 of these guys? I still have to plan that out. You don't have to commit your entire bankroll on a Monday morning. It was what I've figured out. I've had more success doing it the way that I'm trying to do it this week than the other way around. So we're going to see how that works out.
Totally agree.
You, good people out there, leave a rating and review on the Pat Mayo Experience on Apple and Spotify. Sub to the Mayo Media Network, on YouTube. Smash the like while you're here. I'll be back with best bets tomorrow with Sia Najad and David Bileski as well. So the Win Daily Sports team coming on. Just 2 guys that I really enjoy. So we're going to get everything rolling through on that. So stay tuned on that. And like I said, sub, leave the ratings and review, Underdog Fantasy, all that fun stuff. All right. I'm Pat Mayo. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!